All right, welcome to the relationship show. This guy writes this post. He says, as a guy, am I supposed to just put all my needs aside for my wife? He says, our current situation, my wife and I both make similar money, split the mortgage. I pay for everything else in my credit card. I do the laundry, I cook, I do the dishes, I clean, I do the yard work, and whatever house maintenance I can. I try to manage all the big projects around the house. I do the grocery shopping. I make the fresh squeezed juice for her in the morning. I try to stay in shape. I'm expected to plan dates, Valentine's Day, anniversary, vacations, because she doesn't like planning. I don't either, but somebody has to do it. And I don't watch porn. I avoid unnecessary conversations with the opposite sex. I don't drink that much anymore. I would do whatever she wants in the bedroom. Man, dude. It's just an example of you trying to please her no matter what. It's like, from your perspective, you're probably thinking, hey, I do all this work and then she doesn't care about me and she doesn't treat me right. And it's like, what am I doing wrong? And so it's like, often like in business situations or external things other than like relationships, like when things go wrong, we think we need to work more or put more effort in or try harder. And it's like, oh, if we try harder, then sometimes in business it actually works. It actually gets us as a result if we push through difficult things and just keep stepping up our work ethic. But with relationship, it has the opposite effect. It conveys that you're afraid that you don't really deserve her. And when that happens, her attraction drops. You'll see it over and over and over again. The same situation that's just kind of approval-seeking behavior. Now, you're doing basically, from your description, everything. You're doing, she pays the mortgage, but other than that, you take away, you're doing everything because she can do nothing, and she gets away with that. And it's like, she's not going to respect you if you keep up this behavior. It's like you have to stick up for yourself. And this is where a sense of selfishness even comes into play. It's like you need to take care of yourself and then you take care of the other person. It's not just putting the other person first every single time. Because if you put yourself first every single time, it comes like these situations. It's like the analogy with like in an airplane, they tell you to put on your mask. 1 second here. Looks like, okay. They tell you to put on your mask and before you put it on your child's. And when you do that, it's like you take care of yourself first. And then when you are stable, when you're healthy yourself, mentally, physically, then you can take care of someone else. He says, I try to develop these habits to be a good husband. My wife, for the most part, is apathetic to this. She says, I cook because I need to eat. And since I eat, those are my dishes to do. It's like, it's kind of like a bitch move, if you will. And it's like totally taking advantage of you and your work ethic and what you're doing. But it's like she can get away with this. So she repeats it and she can do whatever she wants and she can treat you this way and you don't stick up for yourself. And so it's like being assertive and sticking up for yourself is such a huge, really problem in the world. It's like people don't do it. And it's just like we're in a culture that everyone just says like, oh, if someone's offended or someone has like these feelings or expresses even like, some kind of feelings where I don't like this, is like, oh, well, because they don't like this, I need to change. It's like, well, no, you look at your mission, you look at where you're headed, you look at where you're going, and you take that into consideration in making your decisions, not necessarily just if you hurt somebody else. It's like, yes, if it genuinely hurts someone else and doesn't, and you recognize it, and it's like, sometimes you can make like these compromises in occasions like that, but not over things like, oh, it's your dishes, so you have to do it, and it, things along those lines. It's like, oftentimes, you're really training her to treat you this way, and it's like you won't stick up for yourself, so you don't have any kind of consequence for her to behave any differently, so she can just go along with the ride. I guess I don't expect anything from my wife, and I don't mind taking care of these things. But in my mind, I think I deserve something. Now, for me, I am very unsatisfied with our sex life because she just seems very unenthusiastic. You're not taking the lead. You're not showing up in your masculine energy. You're not in your certainty. You're not telling her what to do. Even in like bed, that can be a turn on. If you just tell her what to do, it's like you taking charge can be a turn on. It's like you don't do that. You let her take the charge and her be the leader. And that makes her feel uncomfortable in those situations. So she disrespects you even more. And it's just not a good relationship. Let's see. And very unenthusiastic about sex and just wants it to be over. I just wish that at least in that area I could get some lingerie or anything. She doesn't like that, and I try not to say anything because I don't want to be pressuring her into doing something she is not comfortable with. And so it's like you're asking for her permission and seeking her approval still. It's like over and over again, you're doing these same things. Well, and you're probably thinking, how do I do this? It's like, I've lived this way my whole life. This is how my dad acted. This is how, people in my social group acted. This is how I was trained, but, I just feel miserable doing this and miserable in these types of relationships because it happens over and over again. So what do I do? How do I change? Oftentimes people change when it gets even worse. And so it's like when the relationship blows up and they lose half their money and then they've been miserable for 10 years and it's like they're at an end basically. And it's like they have so much pain linked to it that they have to find a way to change. And that's really a lot of times when, people look to external sources to really work on themselves. They need that pain motivator, unfortunately. Not always the case, but in a lot of cases it is. So with this guy, with this situation, he must realize that he's got to take some kind of selfishness first. It's not a very good or not many good associations with that word selfish, but it is absolutely essential. He has to adopt a masculine, really polarity. If that's, especially if it's his natural essence, it seems like a lot of guys have that natural essence of a masculine source, but they've basically have this mask they put on because they're afraid of hurting people's feelings. That's how they've been conditioned by society. And so to adopt that masculine essence is like, you have to have a mission. You have to be, driven by that mission. And that is your number one. Your mission is number one. When you are with your woman, that's when you must make her feel like she's number one in that moment. But she must also know that you can walk away from her if your mission calls for it. And the second thing you need to adopt is an ability to walk away and mean it. And so it's like, if she treats you like shit like that, and you're like, well, see you later. It's like that kind of attitude. She must know that you can walk away from her and find someone else and be okay with walking away with her. Because if you have that sense, that comes across as strength. If you can use that as like a blanket mindset, if you will, being able to walk away and mean it, you will automatically get so much strength as far as your responses. And you'll get these responses like you don't even know how you thought of these things and they just came to you immediately. And that's really when you are, have adopted that masculine presence. So when you can just come up with things like that on the spot and defend yourself on the spot, and that's your default. And when that happens, she feels safe around you because she feels like you can stick up for yourself and she feels that you are strong. And safety is one of the biggest things that women need to feel. They need to feel like they are safe when around you. They also need to feel like they are seen around you, meaning like women do things to get your attention. But in situations like this, when you're always like pursuing her or trying to please her, it's like she doesn't have to do things to get your attention because you give her so much attention that it's like, she doesn't have to work for it. And so that really robs her of that true feeling of her, trying to get attention from men, really. And so what she'll do oftentimes is when she feels like this guy's being a total pleaser and she needs to get attention somewhere else, she'll go to somebody else and some other guy. And that's when you'll see like infidelity happen. But women need to feel like that. They need to feel seen, if you will, when they try to get your attention. They need to be understood. So don't try to solve their problems. Just listen. Women talk through their problems. That's how they solve them. You don't have to fix them. Do those things and then make her feel safe. And those are really the three really pillars of making her feel comfortable and comfortably being in her femininity. So continue on. She doesn't like that I try not to say anything because I don't want to be pressured her into doing something she's not comfortable with. But she hit me with, what did you expect from me? It crushed me because I feel like I have to meet her expectation, and anything I expect is not important. So he has no respect in this relationship because he can't stick up for himself, and he thinks the solution is just to do more of like the pleasing things. And that's why, I believe that like in the 5 love languages, I think that is very valid. But I think when people only have that as a tool, it's like people think that just by reading that book, now they're an expert in relationships, and what they'll get caught up in is situations like this. So it's like, for instance, they identify her love language as, like this case, like if he identified her love language as acts of service, and then he just overdoes it and just thinks that he can just dive into acts of service and pleasing her, not sticking up for himself and not doing any other things that really make him show up as like a strong leader and a strong man. And he just does the acts of service. Then it's like, it turns into these situations and there's no respect, and it's a really unhealthy relationship. And, he feels horrible about himself, and probably vice versa too. She probably feels horrible about herself as well because she's not being fulfilled. And then she'll take it out on him just as like a combative thing. And then she is pregnant now. And I know that my efforts /needs have to be focused on her. Nah, man. It's like, you're already way too focused on her. You need to focus on yourself and taking care of yourself and respecting yourself and identifying your values and communicating that it's not okay to treat you that way. Because if you do that, even though it's difficult and it's scary, and especially if you're not in the habit of doing it and really breaking through that, it is absolutely essential to make her feel like she is with someone who is strong and can take the lead. Because if she feels like you can't lead her and take care of her, especially when the two of you have a kid, she's probably going to find someone else. Have to be focused on her and the baby, but I feel like I missed the window where she could have put some effort in for me. Sorry for ranting, but this is not what expected. The dude's got to stick up for himself. That's really what it comes down to. It's like, he needs to be more assertive and know that this will work. It's like, if you don't know like what will work, then you're probably just going to keep doing what you're doing, and then trying to make it more like what this guy's doing. So he doesn't know what will actually lead to a successful relationship, or that like women need like a strong masculine presence in their life. And that's really what they're attracted to if they're in their feminine energy themselves, which is a lot of the cases. So once he gets that understanding that it's like he needs to stick up for themselves, otherwise the relationship will end and it will falter and it will continue the way it's going. If he makes that realization and knows it for truth, that if he can just stick up for himself, and when she tests, it's like, if she tells you something like some degrading comment, it's like, the ways to, okay, yeah, I'll get into this. It's like when she tests and gives you like a degrading comment, there's really 3 options that you can do. You can ignore it, but if you ignore it and you're not already established as like a masculine person, and you don't have that respect, then ignoring it will not work. It's only going to, she'll keep doing it. It's not going to give her any consequence. The next one is putting her down. So it's like when she says something to you degrading, you say something back to her degrading. And then the third one is not tolerating it. So it's like, I can't tolerate you like talking to me like that. It's completely inappropriate for you to say something like that. We've got a kid coming. I'm doing all this work for us and our family, and you have the guts to basically downplay me and my roles and my values and my feelings, and that is completely unacceptable to me. And you need to go, we need to talk about this some other time or whatever, because you need to give me some space right now, because this isn't going to work and I will not tolerate that. Something along those lines, but you don't tolerate it. So that's another way to pass her test, and use those three. Once you've established yourself, ignoring little things can be effective. Putting her down. So when she says something to you, you say something combative back to her. And then almost like even throw like, she's probably going to shame you in some ways. It's like you shame her back. And so then the third one would be, again, not tolerating what, the disrespect she gives you. So those are some ways, kind of go throughout your head. It's like, but automatically those things will come if you just adopt a mindset where you can walk away and mean it. And because you can. And that you're going to be okay, and you're going to find someone else, and you're going to have a great life with or without her. But it really just comes from you stepping up and being more assertive in the relationship.